Welcome back, guys. We are now on to day 2 of Unit 3. So we're talking about nutrition and digestion. Today's aim is how do the organs of the digestive system work together? So there are a few things we should annotate here. The first thing is we know that organs are made up of tissues, and tissues are made up of cells, etc. Remember that level of organization. Okay, and we also know that organs make up organ systems. Oh, wait, I missed an of there. So made up of tissues. Let's rewrite that. I've been having trouble writing today. I think I might be losing my mind. So organs are made up of tissues and they make up organ systems. Okay. And the second thing that we should annotate is our digestive system here. We know that the digestive system, its function is digestion, which means it functions to break down food. Okay. So today we're going to figure out how do the organs of the digestive system work together. So you've got 3 do now questions. I want you guys to pause this video, take 3 minutes to answer those 3 questions, and press play when you're ready to go over them. So question 1, what is homeostasis? We've heard this word a lot. Remember I told you guys that homeostasis means maintaining that stable internal environment. So that word will come up multiple times this year. You will see it on the Regents this spring. So make sure you guys are familiar with the concept of homeostasis, maintaining that balance, maintaining that equilibrium or stable internal environment. All right, now yesterday we talked about 2 different types of digestion, mechanical and chemical. Remember that with mechanical digestion, the word mechanical sounds kind of like a mechanic. So we're talking about manual labor or machines. So if we're talking about mechanical digestion, this is going to be things like chewing. So chewing your food, which happens in your mouth. And there's also a thing called churning that happens in your stomach. So I always think of like back in like the 1800s when people used to churn their butter, right? They used to mix it up physically. So churning happens in your stomach. And again, those are both examples of mechanical digestion. So they're manual labor or physical labor. All right. But chemical digestion makes us think of things like chemical reactions. And based on our last unit, we know that wherever there's chemical reactions, there are probably enzymes working to speed it up. So 2 examples of chemical digestion are going to be something like yesterday I told you about amylase, which is an enzyme that's found in saliva. And amylase breaks down starch. So let's say breaks down starch. So that's why if you were to put like a piece of bread or a cracker or a potato chip, something like that in your mouth, even if you don't chew it, it starts to dissolve, right? So the second your saliva touches it, that bread starts to break down. And that's because the starch that's in those foods is being broken down by the enzyme amylase. So that's one example of chemical digestion. Another example is just something like stomach acid. Okay, so stomach acid works to break down food in your stomach. Mostly proteins, I should add. All right, so there is your do now. Now, the next thing I want you guys to do is watch this video that's linked in part A. I can't actually show it in this video because in the past when I've tried to show you videos on my videos, YouTube has flagged me for copyright issues. So I can't actually show this to you. So what I want you guys to do is pause this video, watch this YouTube video on your own, and answer questions 1 and 2. When you are done watching that video, please come back and we'll go over these questions together. Now, if you're going to watch any video this year, I would recommend watching this one because it's super interesting. In fact, you might even say it's, dare I say, gross. So if you want to like make my day, I want you guys to record your reaction videos to watching this video because usually there's some pretty good reactions and I want to see them. So again, I want you guys to record your reaction videos. And if they're really good, send them to me because I want to laugh. All right. That come back. If you're here, I'm assuming you've watched that video, and I'm hoping that you sent me a reaction video as well. So now we've got a few things to go over. When watching that video, you should have answered 2 questions. Number 1 being, what is peristalsis? So in that video, you heard that peristalsis are waves of contracting muscles that push food, so they physically push food throughout the digestive system. And these waves are actually so powerful that we can eat upside down. So usually if you were in this class, I would have one brave volunteer who I would hold their legs as they did a handstand in the classroom. And then we would have them eat a candy bar and see if they could physically swallow that food. And through that demonstration, the answer is yes. Now, the reason that food continues to move down your esophagus, even when you're upside down, is because of peristalsis. So it's these waves of contractions that physically push the food down throughout your digestive tract. Okay, so if you're brave, try that. Try to do a handstand against your wall and eat some food. See what happens. Once you swallow, the food will be traveling down on its own and you won't even have to think about it. Right, so peristalsis is a series of wave-like contractions that move food to different stations in the digestive tract. And this actually happens in 3 different parts. Okay, I want you guys to note that this happens. Where can I write this? Okay, so peristalsis happens in the esophagus. Peristalsis happens in the stomach. And peristalsis happens in the small intestine. Okay, so those wave-like contractions happen in the esophagus, the stomach, and the small intestine. Now, question number 2 that was answered in the video is, how does the stomach protect itself from the stomach acid? So you know that stomach acid is super, super acidic. It's highly corrosive. So you should have heard in the video that the stomach protects itself from that acid by coating itself with a lining of mucus that neutralizes that acid. Now, this does sometimes fail. And if this does fail, if that mucus doesn't do its job, or if your body doesn't produce enough of that mucus, that acid can actually start to digest the lining of the stomach. So that acid can actually digest the stomach walls, which will lead to stomach ulcers. So if you've ever heard of someone having ulcers in their stomach, it's because that acid actually ate through their stomach wall, which is super gross. But that's why we produce that mucus to neutralize the stomach acid. All right, now here you have a diagram of the digestive system. Please make a note to be familiar with where each of these organs are on the digestive tract. You will have to know this, so make sure you are familiar with where those things are located. But all I'm going to go over with you today is the basic functions or jobs of these following organs. So the very first thing is the esophagus, which you'll find right here. So what I want you guys to write for the esophagus is that it connects the mouth and the stomach. Okay, and remember that we just learned about that thing called peristalsis. That happens in the esophagus. So muscle contractions, called peristalsis, propel food or push food into the stomach. Okay, so that's the esophagus. You'll find it right here. Okay, the next thing we need to cover is the stomach, which you'll find right here. This organ right here. Okay, and that stomach does a few things. First, it secretes acids and enzymes to break down food through chemical digestion. Okay? And the second thing it does is those muscles are going to churn to mix the food and break it down further through mechanical digestion. Okay, so muscles churn to break down food. Once again, this is an example of peristalsis. Through mechanical digestion. Okay, so the stomach participates in both mechanical and chemical digestion because it's physically mixing and breaking down that food, as well as those acids and enzymes are breaking down food through chemical digestion. And remember that that actually specializes with breaking down proteins, if you remember that from yesterday's video. Okay. Third thing, the pancreas, which you will find right here. Let's put that in blue. Pancreas is super, super tiny. And it does a few things. So the pancreas is actually in charge of producing and secreting enzymes. That help with digestion, specifically chemical digestion. Okay. All right, next up, the small intestine, which is going to be the intestines that you see in the middle right here. Okay, so this is your small intestine right in here. Right, and your small intestine, if you remember from yesterday, this is actually the organ that completes digestion, right? So all of the extra proteins or carbohydrates that weren't fully digested get broken down here. This is also where lipids are digested. But the main function of the small intestine that you need to know is it absorbs nutrients from the food. So the small intestine specializes in nutrient absorption. Did I spell that right? Unsure, let me know. All right, and finally, the large intestine. Now, the large intestine is going to be the outer barrier of that intestinal feature. So the large intestine is going to be this one right here. So the small is on the inside, large is on the outside. Okay, and the large intestine specializes in water absorption. So this large intestine is going to absorb salts and water. So we'll call that water absorption. I feel like is there not a B there? Absorption, I don't know, I need spell check. Water absorption. And now, of course, that large intestine is then going to send the waste to the rectum. And you can use your imagination as to what happens there. All right, so those are the functions of just these 5 organs. Now, I want you guys to be comfortable with actually every organ that's on this diagram. We will be talking about some more of them in the upcoming future, but make sure that you're familiar with where they're located on this anatomy. All right. Now, the very last thing you need to do today is your exit ticket. Some of you guys are turning in your notes and not your exit ticket, but this is where your grade comes from. So please make sure you complete this exit ticket. And let's see, fill out these questions. There are only 2 today. So complete those 2 questions, press submit, and you are good to go. Have a wonderful day. And as always, let me know if you have any questions about this video. I'll see you guys tomorrow.